Last month, for the first time in my life, I found myself here at Exeter Crown Court on jury service. For most of my professional life, the clergy, along with the insane and convicts, have been debarred from serving on juries. But a few years ago, the government changed the rules and I found myself here, and pretty intimidating the experience was. I found the solemnity of the court, the formality of its proceedings, and the sheer responsibility of being a member of a jury really overwhelming. I don't know about you, but I find these days in the run-up to Christmas pretty frenetic. With all the searching around for presents, writing Christmas cards, planning exotic menus, working out arrangements of when you're going to touch base with family and friends. The whole thing is a bit of a headache. It's full of activity, but beneath all the glitz and glamour of Christmas, there is actually a more sombre undercurrent to December. Because in Christian tradition, December is a time when we focus on the so-called four last things. That's death, judgment, heaven, and hell. Some years ago I was in London and I went to this fantastic exhibition of Russian icons. And I remember in particular the very last icon in the exhibition, which was one of the Last Judgment. There was Jesus and he was looking at you, looking at me, with those really deep, dark, piercing, almost black eyes, and yet there was love and compassion in them. And he was pointing, he was holding the Bible in his left hand and he was pointing to it, and on it was written a text, except it was in Old Slavonic and I couldn't read it, but I could see the little sign at the exhibition which was beside it telling us what it was, and it said this was an icon of the 16th century, it was Russian, and it was of the Last Judgment. And then they gave the text, which was in Matthew chapter 11 verse 28. Now I'd like to say I immediately knew what that was, but I have to confess that I didn't, so I had to go home and look it up. And this is the verse: "Come to me, all you who are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." When we picture the Last Judgment, we tend to think of it a bit like the Crown Court. There we are, up before the judgment seat of God, the books are opened and judgment is read, and no doubt execution is on the cards and we feel terrified. But have we got that right? Perhaps actually the Russian Orthodox icon is more accurate, because God, the compassionate one, is calling us, inviting us to come into his presence. We poor, overburdened, exhausted people, and to experience rest. It's that which God wants to give us, not simply now, but for eternity.